12 shots in the first 30 minutes. A finish so impudent it muted a five-time world champion. And a Morocco side that strolled into MetLife Stadium and played like the building belonged to them. For half an hour, the Atlas Lions didn't just inconvenience Brazil, they exposed them. So here's the question that makes this match irresistible. How does Carlo Ancelotti, one of the most garlanded coaches the sport has ever produced, got the first 45 minutes this wrong? And then how does he reach into his bag at the interval and pull the whole thing back? This is a story of two managers, two halves, and one flash of Vinícius Júnior brilliance that rescued a point for the Selecao that they had no business taking. Settle in because this one is a lesson in both directions. You're inside the tactics room on European Footballer Adda, the one place that slows a match right down until every decision finally makes sense. If you like our analysis with the tactics genuinely explained rather than shouted, then a quick subscribe goes a long way. Let's lay out the two game plans. Both teams arrived in the same numbers, a 4-2-3-1 apiece, but the intention behind those identical shapes could not have been more different. Ancelotti's Brazil were built to control. Casemiro and Bruno Guimarães sat as a double pivot. Two midfielders shielding the back four and recycling possession, with Lucas Paqueta as the free man between the lines. Out wide, the jewels Rafinha on the right and Vinícius Júnior on the left, both asked to isolate Morocco's fullbacks in one-on-one duels with Igor Thiago leading the line. The theory was patient dominance, hold the ball, pin Morocco back, and let the magicians eventually unpick the lock. Morocco, now coached by Mohamed Ouabi, after Walid Regragui stepped away following the AFCON final, had no intention of sitting back and admiring Brazil. Their plan was the opposite. Press high, hunt the ball, and break at lightning speed. Brahim Diaz floated into the spaces between the lines. Ismail Saibari made darting runs in behind, and El Khanous and Azzeddine Ounahi carried the ball at the heart of the Brazilian midfield and circled the duel that would define the half. Ashraf Hakimi, Morocco's captain at right back, lining up directly against Vinicius. Whoever won that flank would shape the game. Two more ideas to bank before kickoff because they decide everything. First, rest defense. That's basically the shape a side keeps while attacking, so it is protected the moment position is lost. Brazil's plan demanded that Casemiro or Bruno always stay home as the anchor. The second one is Morocco's pressing triggers. Pressing triggers is basically the cues to swan. A heavy touch from a centre back, a pass rolled backward, a fullback receiving with his back to play. Any of those, and the Atlas Lions sprang in packs of three. The whole match hinged on whether Brazil's rest defense could survive Morocco's pressing triggers. But for 45 minutes, it could not. And it was Morocco who landed the first blow because their plan didn't just compete, it overwhelmed. Inside the opening 10 minutes, they had outshot Brazil 5-1. By the half-hour mark, they had racked up 12 attempts, more than Brazil had conceded in any of the previous 6 full World Cup matches. Then, on 21 minutes, the pressure became a goal. Trace the root cause because it isn't bad luck, it is structural. Brazil's double pivot had pushed too high, chasing the game, leaving the space behind them wide open. There was no rest defense, no safety platform, of players positioned to snuff out the counter. So when Morocco won it back, Brahim Diaz simply slipped a through ball between Brazil's centre backs into the channel. Saibari timed his run beyond the last man, and with Alisson rushing out to close the angle, he lifted the most delicate chip up and over him. It was a gorgeous finish, but it's also a coaching indictment. Brazil's high line had been living on borrowed time, and Morocco cashed the check. And credit Morocco's engine room because they were magnificent. Ayub Bowadi and Neil El Ayanoui refused to merely contain. They carried the ball through the lines and forced Brazil's midfield to backpedal towards their own box. Whenever Brazil tried to step up, Morocco played around or straight through them with crisp one-touch football. That is how you manufacture 12 shots against a defense this expensive, not with hopeful long balls, but by arriving in the final third again and again with numbers and belief. Morocco did not carry themselves like underdogs. They were the side with the plan. And what did Brazil's own attack do before that Vinicius bolt from the blue? In truth, very little. Igor Thiago was marooned up top. Rafinha was starved on the right, and Paqueta dropped so deep to find the ball that Brazil had nobody left in the box. This is the knock-on effect of a trembling platform. When the base is under siege, the forwards get no clean supply. Steady the foundation, and the attack at least begins to breathe. That single idea is the story of Brazil's second half. Stung, Brazil needed a moment of pure individual class to paper over the structural cracks. And they had the man ready for exactly that. 11 minutes after falling behind, the game turned on a single spark. This is the Brazil game plan working in one fluid move. Bruno Guimarães lifts his head and releases Vinicius in that left half space. The exact isolation Ancelotti wanted. From there, it is individual genius. Vini drives infield, shifts the ball past Mazraoui, and bends the right-footed shot away from the goalkeeper and into the far top corner, leaving Yassine Bono rooted. 1-1. And there's a lovely footnote. It came on Vinicius' 50th cap for the Selecao. For half an hour, Brazil had been second best in almost every department, and it took one flash of brilliance to wipe that slate clean. That strike also flipped the night's marquee duel. For 20 minutes, Hakimi had kept Vinicius quiet, even bombing forward to make the Brazilian defend his own flank. But the equalizer was the reminder lurking all along. Leave Vinicius 1-against-1 just once. Hand him a yard and a lane into the box, and the prize is a goal. From there, Ancelotti leaned ever more on that left side, knowing every Hakimi adventure upfield left a duel Brazil could punish on the turnover. Level at the interval, but thoroughly second best, Ancelotti did what elite managers do. He diagnosed the illness and changed the prescription. Off came Casemiro and Roger Ibanez, and on came Fabinho and Danilo. A double switch with a clear purpose. So here's the thinking. Fabinho is a more natural, disciplined anchor, a single pivot who stays home and rebuilds that missing rest defense. So Brazil could push up without leaving the barn door open behind them. Danilo brought tournament-hardened composure and security to the back line. And look at the shift in the passing map. In the first half, Brazil's shape was compressed in their own territory. Their build-up harried and rushed. In the second, their average positions march up the pitch. The tempo becomes theirs. The territory tilts towards Morocco's goal. It's not a flashy change, but it's a masterful one. Ancelotti effectively rebalanced the entire team with two substitutions. But a note of caution amid this praise, though. For all that second half control, Brazil created strikingly little with it. Territory and tempo, yes, but genuinely clear chances to win the match, precious few. They recognized brilliantly to stop losing, but they never truly threatened to win. Against a disciplined Moroccan bloc, the old question resurfaced. Where is the cutting edge to match all that control? Data backs up everything our eyes told us. Brazil finished with the majority of possession, around 56%, and yet Morocco won the contest when it mattered most. The duels and the big chances, Morocco edged the physical battle, winning the majority of duels overall, dominating the ground duels and completing more of their dribbles. Saibari alone generated nearly zero point 0.7 xg, while Brahim Diaz manufactured a big chance and a hatful of key passes. So, the translation: Brazil held the ball, but for long stretches, Morocco held the danger. That gap between possession and threat is the single most important tactical takeaway from this match. In plain terms, this was the classic split between having the ball and hurting with it. Brazil's position looked robust on the broadcast bar, but much of it was sterile, sideways and backward in front of a well-set block. Morocco's smaller share was venom, vertical, direct, aimed at the grass behind the defense. Glance only on the position figure and you would assume Brazil bossed this. The XG and the duel maps tell the truer tale. For long spells, Morocco played the better football. It is also why, by full time, the spotlight had swung onto Brazil's centre-back pairing of Gabriel Magalhães and Marquinhos. They are serial winners, but on the night, they were repeatedly turned and stretched by Morocco's movement, caught between stepping up to hold the line and dropping to smother the runs in behind. Some of that is personal, but far more of it is in the platform in front of them. Shield a backline with a proper anchor and a compact midfield, and even a high line looks serene. Strip that protection away, as Brazil did for 45 minutes, and you expose your most expensive defenders to precisely the kind of evening they endured here. The momentum graphic breathes like the match did. That long red wave through the opening half hour is Morocco's onslaught, capped by Saibari's goal. Then the sharp yellow spike, Vinicius dragging Brazil back to the surface. After the break, the broad yellow hump is Ancelotti's reset taking hold. Brazil finally controlling the third quarter. And then ominously, the wave rolls back to Morocco in the closing stages because the Atlas Lions were not done. They came again. In fact, Morocco came within inches of the most famous of wins. Deep into the closing stages, Alisson produced a stunning double save. First parrying a thunderous Neil El Ayanoui effort from distance, then somehow scrambling across to deny the rebound. And even into the 100th minute, El Ayanoui tried his luck again from range and forced the Brazil number one into another diving stop. A point apiece flatters the favourites, and it announces Morocco loudly as a side nobody in this tournament will want to drop. A group stage consequences are real too. A draw means Brazil have already ceded ground in a Group C that looked on paper like a gentle stroll. For Morocco, a point against the five-time champions is rocket fuel. Proof that the World Cup semi-finalists of recent memory have only sharpened. This group is suddenly wide awake, and Brazil's margin for error in their remaining games just narrowed considerably. So time to weigh it up. Two managers, two very different report cards. Let's look at Carlo Ancelotti, the Brazilian manager. What worked for him was the halftime double switch of Fabinho and Danilo which fixed the balance and won back control. His trusting the wide isolation for Vinicius produced the equaliser from almost nothing. And once the rest defense was restored, Brazil dictated the third quarter with ease. But what misfired was equally important. The first half double pivot pushed too high, leaving no protection for the counter. It was a naive high line that was repeatedly exposed in behind and led directly to Saibari's opening goal. Brazil were outshot and outdueled before halftime. The start was alarmingly passive in defense. On to Mohamed Ouabi, the Morocco manager, who had a 4-2-3-1 high press and fast transition strategy. What worked for him was a fearless high press and razor-sharp transitions which overwhelmed Brazil for 35 minutes. Brahim Diaz between the lines and Saibari in behind was the perfect pairing to attack Brazil's structure. He also won the duel and the big chance battle against the five-time champions and nearly stole all 3 points late. What didn't work was he couldn't sustain the opening intensity once Brazil reorganized and Morocco seeded that third quarter. He also dropped a fraction too deep after the break, inviting pressure instead of going for the jugular. A sharper final ball in their late surge, and this could have been a famous victory and not a draw. So the bottom line is that Wahhabi outcoached one of the legends of the game for almost 35 plus minutes. And only Ancelotti's ruthless halftime surgery plus a world-class goalkeeper saved Brazil's blushes. 2 points dropped for the Selecao or a monumental point won for the Atlas Lions? Honestly, I think it's both. So, I want to hear from you. Is this a warning siren for Brazil's title hopes or simply a brilliant Morocco performance that any contender would have struggled to contain? Tell me in the comments and tell me whether you'd have made Ancelotti's changes in the break or gone even bolder. If this breakdown helped you see the match a little differently, smash that button. It genuinely pushes the channel forward. And subscribe with the bell icon on so you can never miss an episode of the Tactics Room. We have got a full tournament of these coming. I'm signing off from European Footballer Adda. Keep your eyes on the spaces, not just the ball. See you in the next one.